Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Micah just checking in with another Nutrition 101 if it fits your macros approach, and just some general recommendations and how you can get started, play around with the numbers. But to be honest with you, it's really coming down to the individual, and that's why working with a coach, somebody that knows the process with adjusting macronutrients and making sure that it's personalized really helps out with that. But I want to go through some recommendations. Now, I first asked to, in my previous videos, to make sure that you're tracking your food and just to figure out your trends, what you typically intake, how many calories are you intaking on your typical day, and pay attention to what that looks like, and to see if you're maintaining, sustaining, or gaining or losing on that trend. To kind of follow up with that, now that you've kind of got adjusted to what you're currently doing with your food, you're weighing it out, you understand what nutrition looks like, how to look at it, how to weigh it out, how to put it into your your tracker, your food tracker, and you're getting a lot more comfortable with that. Now, what to do with that information? So generally speaking, with figuring out what your total calories should be at for the day, or your total daily energy expenditure, what to play around with, you basically need to figure out what your basal metabolic rate is. There's a bunch of equations out there, but I tend to use the Mifflin-St. Jean as a guideline to help out with basal metabolic rate. And it's basically what your body is doing, how many calories it takes to just keep your body living. There is no anything outside of that. And so basically you could just sit down, do nothing all day, and that's whatever your body has to do to sustain that's your basal metabolic rate, your daily function. And so once you figure that out, there's calculators online. You just Google search BMR equation. You can just fill out your height, weight, and age, and it spits out your number. But basically, once you know that, then you can actually add in a activity multiplier. So basically, it ranges from like 1.3 to 1.9, depending on how active you are, how vigorous your exercise is, how frequent you're exercising. But that's basically it. I mean, that's the ability to add in some extra calories because your body needs it. I mean, it's burning a lot more fuel than somebody that just does their daily functions or daily responsibilities. So once you figure out where you fall in there, it's called the Harris-Benedict equation. You can use that as an activity multiplier. You look that up along with your basal metabolic rate equation. But you do that, you multiply those two numbers. That gives you your total daily energy expenditure. So say I do those two calculations and I'm at 2,200 calories. That's basically the amount of calories that should sustain my weight. If I don't do anything else, that should be at my my maintenance calories. But to be honest with you, most people aren't even close to that. When they start tracking food, they're either above that or they're below that, to start off. And so if you're below that and you're thinking about dieting or contest prepping, or you're thinking to lose body fat, the best approach is to try and raise your calories incrementally to at least get to that total daily energy expenditure. You want to start off at the best possible, or the highest amount of calories possible, before you start dieting or losing body fat, because you're going to hit sticking points, you're going to hit plateaus, and it's going to get super frustrating if you get down to about 1,200 calories and you're basically full throttle with cardio. You don't want to add in any more cardio. You're already at like an hour and a half, and then also you don't want to take any more calories out because you're already exhausted, you're tired, you can't get through your workouts. I mean, your body's just going to stall out. So you want to slowly increment that. Some people, they're way above their total daily energy expenditure and they're maintaining weight at that rate. They're at a better position to start losing weight if they desire to, because they have a lot more calories to pull from. So once you figure that out, once you know what your progression is, that's how you figure out your total daily energy expenditure. Now to go into macronutrient breakdowns. So first you calculate your proteins and your fats, whatever's left over is going to be your carbohydrate and sources. So with protein, general guidelines are 0.8 to 1.5 grams per pound. So it really ranges depending on where you're at. If you're looking to just build lean muscle mass, you got a good significant amount of carbohydrates, good significant amount of fats in your diet, you don't need as much protein. There's so much advertisements for protein, protein, protein. You don't need a lot if you're building. Those other calories, those carbohydrates and fats are going to do its job, what it's supposed to do to help out with maintaining homeostasis. Protein can be just utilized as muscle protein synthesis, and testosterone, and so it can perform those functions without being sacrificed to do something else, like say you were contest prepping. So that's why there's 0.8 to 1.5. As you start contest prepping, that number will shift a lot higher throughout the process, depending on how your body responds and how it retains lean muscle tissue. And then, so you multiply your weight by that general guideline. And then also with your fats, it's 0.25 to 0.5, or 25% to 50% of your body weight in pounds. And so, depending on who you are and how your body responds, some people respond super well to high fat or lower fat or moderate fat. I mean, it really just depends on the person. But basically, that's why it ranges so much. And that's why I told you to track your food, recommended to do that from the start, because now you can see your trends. Like, oh wow, I tend to eat a lot more fat, and my carbohydrates aren't as high as I thought, and I'm actually maintaining weight at this point. Maybe I do respond a lot better to higher fat. Hey, maybe I'm looking at it now. My carbohydrates are super high, my fats not so high. Man, maybe I actually respond really well to super high carbohydrates, and I can actually push that limit. It really comes down to personalization. So once you figure out those two numbers, fats and proteins, now you can move on to carbohydrates. So you calculate your proteins and your fats, the calorie loads. So 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. So let's say I do the math and I get 2,200 calories as my total for fats and proteins, and my total daily energy expenditure is at 3,000. So I subtract those two numbers and I get 800 calories left for carbohydrates. Divide that by 4, because that's 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate, and that is 200 grams of carbohydrates that I get to play around with for myself. And so that's how you figure it out. And as your body adjusts, as it goes week to week, that's how you can adjust to those 3 macronutrients. And then there's fiber. I tend to make sure that there's at least 10 to 15% of your carbohydrate intake to be fiber. Typically, if you're on the lower spectrum of carbohydrates, you want to still try and get at least 25 grams of fiber in your diet. And just depending on the person, but you want to make sure that's sufficient, because it helps out with digestion. It just helps to keep everything regular and moving in the right direction, but also just helps out with weight loss and keeps you fuller a lot longer, especially when you're starting to diet down, your macronutrients, your calorie count is getting lower. Fiber actually helps you feel fuller. And then you shouldn't exceed above 60 grams of fiber. I mean, then it can have negative impact for your digestive tract. But also with water intake. Make sure that you're properly hydrated. A good indicator that you're properly hydrated is the color of your urine. If it's close to clear, that means you're hydrated. If you're not, you need to be guzzling some water. So generally speaking, that's a good indicator. So that's how you really figure out what your macronutrient breakdown is. I mean, like I said, it's so general with the guidelines, the ranges that you can play around with, and where to start off with. But that's why I recommend it for you to track beforehand, just to see your own trends and just to kind of give you some baselines on where you can start off with those equations, those guidelines, and make it more personalized. And so if you're looking to lose weight though, lose body fat, making sure that you're 0.5% to 1% of losing weight on the scale each week. Typically people go off the 1/2 pound to 2 pounds per week as healthy weight loss. I don't believe in that. It's too generic. It's not specific. It's not tailored. So 0.5% to 2%, 0.5% to 1% of your body weight, just to ensure that you're losing fat, not losing lean muscle tissue. It kind of ups your chances. So you got a 200-pound person, they tend to lose, they tend to see like a 1 to 2 pounds per week. If you have a 120-pound person, they might see a 0.6 to 1.2 pound drop on the scale per week, just to help out with making sure that you're doing everything you can to retain your lean muscle mass that you've gained so much in the off season or the building phase of your program. So those are some general recommendations of what you can play around with for yourself. I'm going to probably do another video. I wanted to do it in this one, but I didn't have the supplies to do it. But I actually wanted to do a video on what I do typically for breakfast, because I am the most versatile person when it comes down to breakfast, because I love breakfast, and how I play around with my macronutrients just to make sure that I can have a good breakfast first, variety, and then also what I do when I plan to go out with family, or what I do to make sure that, yeah, I'm going to eat something special with my wife for dinner. This is how I plan around it for the rest of the day. So I wanted to do a video on that, just as a follow-up, just to have some fun around how to be a little bit more flexible. That's what's all about. This is why I got started in If It Fits Your Macros or flexible dieting. It wasn't the fact that, hey, now I can just fit anything in there. I can fit a bunch of junk food in there. It's really wasn't about that. It's really about sustainability and just having a lot more variety within my realm. I was literally eating 8 to 10 foods for myself on contest preps. I was so restricted that it just got to the point where it wasn't fun anymore, and I felt so deprived. And I know that there are some people that are so diligent, they're so disciplined, with being that restricted, and they're good with that. They're totally cool with that. But for me personally, I need variety, just to help out with my sanity. And in my own mind, I figured that, hey, if I am not eating the same foods that I'm eating in a contest prep in the off season, or vice versa, there is something wrong with the way that that whole system works. For me now, I'm actually able to eat a variety of foods because I know where my foods are coming from, and I know where my calories are coming from. I know how to play around with my numbers so that I can still stay within that and still make progress. And that was the biggest thing for me. That's why I really wanted to present that information to the general public, people that are watching my YouTube channel, following my progress. But like I said, it's so general recommendations, and it really comes down to how to personalize it as well. So that's where I'm at with everything. Stay tuned on on an updated video, but also I did upload a video for my vlog, really what that looked like, and for my progress up to this point, 9 weeks into my my progress in the building phase. But other than that, if there's any questions, suggestions, please leave them in the comments box. I will address them on future videos, but I do appreciate all the support. Like I said, if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But thanks for checking in, and have a good one. Bye-bye.